drivers, barriers, strategy for sustainable production. This relates to chapter 2, but also in the textbook, but also 3 papers supplied for this chapter. I will make a few brief notes about those as well. It is about making things better for all, because we talk about sustainability in the terms of economics, social dimension, and environmental dimension. And if those are combined, everything will be improved, actually related to competitiveness, cost reductions, improved environmental image of a company and product, and meet new market and customer demands. Especially nowadays, the trend is that in many areas, in a way, that customers, they require to buy for, or they are required to buy from companies with branding or an image of companies that actually work towards goals for sustainability in general. That relates to both business to business and consumers. And then we have regulations and legislations on various markets that actually are a huge driver in this area. An example of those things, especially on the European Union level, are the following: that for most operations products, there are regulations related to the use of materials, raw materials, use of energy, etc., and also during manufacturing and consumption. An example is the image to the right, which indicate for a vacuum cleaner, in this case, the energy consumption. In this case, it should be a low energy vacuum cleaner, and that is then something for the consumer to look at. How much does it consume when I operate it? And that is the way to promote consumers to buy more energy efficient products, in this case within the European Union. The material in the product, depending on its intended use, the emissions during manufacturing or using the products, could be for processes like painting, transportation, and so on. And in most cases, there are regulations, regional, in various countries, how much emissions that are actually allowed. And that puts huge pressure on companies to actually work towards sustainable operation. There are lots of products with this kind of labeling for low energy or other kind of labels. Not only vacuum pumps, but vacuum machines, but also LED lights, chargers with the same contact, and so on. But there was a court appeal from Dyson versus European Union, and Dyson won this actually. So the European Union tried to implement the regulation that put a limit on the maximum energy out at the vacuum cleaner at 900 watt for eco design, but that still applies. But there's an ongoing discussion about actually how much energy any kind of product is allowed to take. So standards in practice. One example is chargers for smartphones, and the European Union, they want to implement one common charger to reduce the use of resources. One should fit all. And it could, of course. It should reduce waste, improve convenience for customers. But it is an ongoing development also from a technology point of view that makes this problematic or difficult to apply. It has to be updated all the time at certain points of time. So the current pressure to create a common specification based on USB Micro B started in 2009 with a memorandum of understanding included Apple, Samsung, Nokia, and Apple was in favor and not. And so they made an adapter to comply with the specification because they have their own contact to the mobile phone, to the smartphone. But from the charge point of view, that's just a standard USB charger. So that's nothing special with that. It's just a cable. And currently the USB-C has become the norm for most appliances, but not for the iPhone. But Apple uses the USB-C in some of their products. So this is an ongoing battle, I would say. Regulation standards on another aspect, on a global level, United Nations, ISO standardization, and agreements on a general level. Not binding, but binding on an aggregated level in a way. I mean, how much pollutions are we allowed to actually emit to the atmosphere, to the water, oceans, to landfill, and so on? And that nails down to the different countries, and on an EU level within the European Union, and down to the different member states. So there are lots of directives and standards which are transferred as binding law or regulation in the member states. For example, Industrial Emissions Directive, Waste Framework Directive, Natural Environmental Code. This is actually just an image taken in Sweden at the place where people turn back used products for recycling or whatever. Plastics, sofas, beds, wood, isolation, and so on at different places. And you can find those in every city. EU Sustainable Consumption and Production Action Plan. It includes most aspects of a sustainable society in Europe. And there is an European Circular Economy Action Plan that makes sustainable products the norm in the EU, which empower consumers and public buyers to think in this direction when they consume things and produce things, and focus on key sectors such as electronics, ICT, batteries and vehicles, packaging, plastics, textiles, food, water, and so on. There's a lot of products that are added to this list along the way, and lead global efforts on circular economy. There are some issues related, and that is ongoing research. Take textiles, for example, fabrics. That's a huge problem actually, because if you have a skirt or something, or trousers, whatever it is, of 100% cotton, that is quite okay to recycle. But when you mix fibers, when you mix materials, there is a problem actually to recycle those and get the fibers back to the original raw material. So once they are combined, it might be really, really difficult to recycle it in the way that you would like to do. An example, European strategy on plastics, could look like this actually, and it does. So cotton buds, ban on single-use cotton buds made with plastics to be replaced on the market with sustainable alternatives. Ban on single-use cutlery, plates, straws, and stirrers made with the plastics to be replaced by more sustainable alternatives, typically paper, wood, or something like that. Plastic sticks for balloons to be banned and replaced by sustainable alternatives, typically wood or paper-based products. Food containers, cups for beverages, typically replaced by paper-based mugs. Beverages containers, 90% separate collection target for plastic bottles. Cigarette butts, to contribute to awareness raising, cleanup, collection and waste treatment, bags. In Sweden, the fee for plastic bags is raised quite dramatically now during the last year to take away most plastic bags. In principle, a plastic bag has a quite low ecological footprint or environmental footprint compared to a bag made of cotton fiber. But the problem with plastic bag is that people throw them away and they are out in the nature, and animals or in the ocean, in the sea, they create huge problems. So that is really an objective to take it out from the circularity. Different type of sweet wrappers and so on. To be aware about cleanup, collection of waste treatment, wet wipes, sanitary items, fishing gear. So everything is included in this aspect. Some barriers and opportunities to sustainability relates to legislations, policies, technological developments create disruptive change. This is interesting because if something really is developed that is better than before, that will be the subject for to be implemented as a directive or legislation. And if a company doesn't really look into this problem and opportunities, they will fall behind. So it might be the case that the winner takes everything that develops something new. Examples are transportation sector, electric drive solutions. It's taking place all over now. Of course, we know about the Tesla electrical cars, and others are following. Volvo Corporation is implementing and delivering medium-sized heavy trucks at this moment now, this year, typically for distribution in cities and for garbage collection. They will drive a full shift, full day on batteries, one charge. And similar buses is coming out also. Large buses, not only small ones, but large buses, articulated and driving in cities for a full day. So things are happening really, and they are expensive to buy upfront, but the more you drive them, the cheaper they get. And barrier as well, lack of knowledge, time, top management commitments, and what one had to think about reducing costs of materials, energy, water emissions, and improving on quality, company reputation, recycling processes. And the strategies include understanding, redefining core operations of the company, identifying operations and processes like waste reduction, process optimization, use of raw materials, and reuse and recycle options. They're usually much more than one believed from beginning, and integrate marketing with product design and production, like green label certification, marketing strategies, to actually get more product sold in the end. That's the core business, to make money. And a few words related to the papers on sustainability that you can find in the folder that relates to these aspects. The paper on incoming global technological and industrial revolution towards competitive sustainable manufacturing. They propose a new paradigm, or describe a new paradigm for competitive sustainable manufacturing. CSM is presented, and the importance for emerging countries as well as advanced countries to rapidly move towards CSM. This is a starting point, which includes educational system. We have these aspects of an economy, society, environment, and they also include technology, which is sometimes included, sometimes not in this concept. But from this paper, it is taken as an important part, and it is in many cases, especially for manufacturing companies. And they also point out some key challenges to work on sustainable development. And the key challenges they identified relates to globalization, the climate change, aging population, public health, poverty and social exclusion, a loss of biodiversity, waste volumes, soil loss and declining fertility, transportation congestion. It really is very similar to the UN Agenda 2030, not far from. This paper was written just before that, actually. But one can see that it's fairly similar in a way. The key challenges, sorry, and they also present some phases, processes, and criteria for the product life cycle and life cycle management, which one had to think about because it, it, it really nails down to the whole life cycle of a product from cradle to cradle. And then the paper Sustainable Manufacturing Trends and Research Challenges. They define sustainable manufacturing as the ability to smartly use natural resources for manufacturing by creating products and solutions that are able to satisfy economical, environmental, and social objectives. They include these three as it normally should, but also are embraced by technology and education, which is quite important. They identify some research clusters as challenges like reduced use of scarce resources, new recycling technologies, material use, remanufacturing, sustainable packaging, resource recovery from alternative fuels and raw materials, energy efficient manufacturing, like new production processes, manufacturing on demand. It's pretty important, actually. Additive manufacturing, as an example. We go into that more specifically later in this course. And then we have the paper identifying the characteristics for achieving sustainable manufacturing companies. That is a case study related to sustainability for a specific company. It describes in depth how a specific company can develop and execute a strategy for sustainable operation. The results include stabilizing production volumes, increase in its order book, doubling productive output with the same number of personnel, a 30% improvement of quality levels, 100% on-time delivery performance, and greater workforce satisfaction, and little risk of losing any of the key personnel. This is really what lean production is about. That will also be taken up in the course at a later lecture, specifically for these kind of developments that this case actually represents. So one can think about which are some strong drivers for sustainable manufacturing, what global trends affect such drivers and how, like energy production, automotive and automotive branches actually, consumer product, global economy, politics, policies, and the technological advancements, of course. Any game changes around the corner? Well, I will bring it up from time to time. The move from automation to autonomous operation, more advanced process control in various ways. Okay, thank you.